I invite the member for Richmond South Centre to lead the House in prayer or reflection.
Honourable Speaker and members, before I begin my prayer, I would like to briefly acknowledge the Buddhist delegation led by Master Khenpo Sonam from the Tranquil Monastery, Canada, in the public gallery. As we gather today in this esteemed chamber, let us take a moment to still our minds and open our hearts, embracing the peace and wisdom that guide us in our duties to the people and the province of British Columbia. Inspired by the teachings of compassion and understanding that Buddhism offers, we seek blessings for all beings. May we be guided by the light of wisdom to see the interconnectedness of all life and the value of every individual, transcending differences and fostering unity. We recognize the shadows of racism, hate, and division that has surfaced in our communities. In the face of such challenges, let us draw upon the Buddhist teachings of loving kindness and compassion to cultivate a world where every person is treated with dignity, respect, and love. May our action within these walls and beyond be infused with the spirit of understanding, patience, and mutual respect. Let us work tirelessly to dismantle the barriers of prejudice and ignorance, building bridges of solidarity and peace among all communities. We pray for the strength to confront and overcome hate with the transformative power of compassion and understanding. May our collective efforts be a beacon of hope, illuminating the path towards a society that cherishes diversity and embraces inclusivity. As we proceed with our deliberations and decisions, may we be reminded of the profound responsibility we hold. May our work be blessed with wisdom, compassion, and the courage to create positive change for all the people of British Columbia. With humble hearts and a unified purpose, we offer our prayers and reflections in our commitment to ensuring that our legislature remains a place of respect, understanding, and progress for all. Amitabha.
Introductions by members. Member for Peace River South.
Well, thank you, Honourable Speaker. It's not often, like many of my rural MLAs that we have here, that we have the privilege of having a guest in the legislature, coming from probably one of the furthest corners of this province all the way down here. I'm pleased to have James Wall, City Councillor from the village of Pouskoupi, in attendance with us here, who took the long drive all the way down here to Victoria to watch question period today. If the House will please make him welcome.
Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Today, some of the best and brightest members of the Agriculture and Food Ministry team are joining us in the House. So we have Sofka, Yasmin, Pepa, Catherine, Chelsea, Hiba, Dana, Zach, Alejandra, and Ikam. So would the House please welcome these young ministry staffers to the House and be good today, please. Thank you.
Member for Richmond South Centre, North Centre.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It's my pleasure to welcome Master Khenpo Sonam of Tranquil Monastery, located in the world-famous Highway to Heaven in the beautiful city of Richmond, in the public gallery. Joining Master Sonam are his Buddhist followers, Dina Deng, Mandy Lian, Ashley Bai, Jeremy Chai, as well as my constituent assistant, all the way from Richmond too, William too. Please join me in welcoming them.
Member for Peace River North.
Yeah, thanks, Honourable Speaker. Like my colleague from Peace River South, it does give me great pleasure to introduce, on behalf of both of us, as she represents Northern Lights College, Tara Highland Russell. She's the Vice President of Academic and Research of Northern Lights College. Of course, like both of our ridings are quite large. Northern Lights College, I believe, if I remember this right, covers around 350,000 square kilometers-ish across 7 communities, 3 ridings. A great benefit. Of course, we all recognize the colleges that do provide to our communities. So would the House please make Tara welcome.
Minister of Transportation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I see in the gallery, it's a real pleasure to notice a friend of mine and a fantastic councillor in the District of Saanich is here, Councillor Zach DeVries, who's doing a fantastic job in local government in my constituency. Very strong transit advocate, working on a lot of conservation and parks initiatives in Saanich to improve the quality of life of his residents. So you didn't tell me you were going to be here, Zach, but it's great to see you all the same, and welcome to the Legislative Assembly. Thank you.
Member for Abbotsford South.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and it is indeed an honour to welcome President Brian Thomas and General Manager Kevin Boone of the BC Cattlemen's Association to the Legislative Assembly today. The BC Cattlemen's Association are strong advocates for our farmers and ranchers who raise beef throughout this province to be able to help feed this province. And I want to thank them for all the hard work they do, and I invite all the members in this House to make them feel very, very welcome.
Member for Surrey Cloverdale.
Honourable Speaker, joining us today in the gallery is a group of people that are here to spread the word about multiple myeloma in the Awareness Month that's coming forward. Joining us today are Christina, Margaret, Patty, Trudy, Brenda, Elizabeth, Annie, Sinclair, Ann, Megan, Cheryl, Brenda, Marilee, Phyllis, Robert, Chuck, Elsie, Lynn, Maureen, Rebecca, and baby Blake. Would everybody please make them feel welcome in this House today on this special day?
Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm pleased to introduce Jocelyn Fan, my Senior Advisor in the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. Jocelyn is with us today in the gallery. Jocelyn and I have been working together since my time as Minister for Advanced Education and Skills Training, and Jocelyn has proven to be so capable and indispensable. She's an integral part of my team and has a great sense of humor and reminds the team to stay hydrated every day. I also want to mention that her husband, Eugene Tsang, whom I've known for over 10 years since my time serving on the Burnaby City Council. Eugene is now a director in the BC Public Service with Ministry of Energy, Mines and Low Carbon Innovation. Tomorrow is Jocelyn's last day working with Ministry of Municipal Affairs as she prepares for her maternity leave. She's having a little girl, and I know that baby Evelyn will be loved and cherished by everyone. So I would like to wish a huge congratulations to Jocelyn, Eugene, and Evelyn, and a big welcome, of course, to baby Evelyn. Would the House please make Jocelyn feel very welcome in the House and wish her all the best.
Member for Chilliwack-Kent.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Joining us today in the gallery is Hans Baer. He's a constituent from Chilliwack-Kent. I just wanted to thank him for being here. He is a fierce advocate for a community that we both love, for his neighbours, and I'm just very grateful he's here to join me for meetings today. So would the House please make him most welcome.
Minister of Jobs and Economic Development.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. It's always exciting when we have Jedis in the House. I'm very excited this morning to welcome a stellar team from our Trade and Investment Division, a powerhouse of BC government's trade initiatives locally and globally. Guests this morning are Michelle Nasi, Carla Wormwald, Jonas Kuhn, Yi Zhao, Rossini Young, Patty Wen, and Marian Payot. Thank you for your efforts in promoting trade, activating investments, and supporting businesses, the backbone of our thriving economic landscape. Would the House please join me in making these guests most welcome?
Madam Clerk.
Introduction of bills.
Leader of the Third Party.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I move that a bill entitled Residential Tenancy Amendment Act, of which notice has been given in my name on the order paper, be introduced and read a first time now. In British Columbia, the current practice puts no limits on how much landlords can raise rents between tenancies, which leads to evictions aimed at increasing rents for incoming tenants. This has resulted in BC having the highest eviction rate in Canada. Of the 10.5% of renters who experienced eviction in the last 5 years in BC, 85% were no-fault evictions. Research attributes these evictions to profit-driven displacement, where the financial incentive of selling a property or raising rents leads landlords, particularly real estate investment trusts, to evict tenants from their homes, despite these tenants paying rent and respecting the property. This displacement has disproportionate effects on people with low and fixed incomes, on Indigenous, racialized, and disabled members of the community, a significant portion of whom are evicted into homelessness. It's time for the practice to end. This Residential Tenancy Amendment Act would restrict the ability of landlords to unfairly increase rent when a unit becomes vacant. In doing so, it removes the incentives for landlords and investors to displace tenants for the sake of increased profit. It would help limit no-fault evictions, increase housing stability for tenants, and preserve affordable housing in BC. This is one immediate solution to address the housing affordability crisis. It would help to ensure security of tenure for tens of thousands of renters who are waiting for affordable, non-market housing to be built. It's an effective and necessary policy tool for addressing the extreme housing affordability crisis that is facing BC renters. I call on this government to recognize the value in this work, and I hope to debate this bill at second reading.
Member, the question is first reading of the bill. All those in favor indicate aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Member?
Mr. Speaker, I move that the bill be placed on the orders of the day for second reading at the next sitting of the House after today.
You have heard the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Madam Clerk.
Statements by members.
Member for Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, last Saturday, we donned our toques, we laced up our walking shoes, and we hit the streets. We hit the streets for the coldest night of the year, which I know that many in this House, I know the Leader of the Opposition, participated in with a lot of other MLAs across this province. Mr. Speaker, why I'm highlighting this today is obviously the great work that these organizations do, particularly Sources BC, and the support they give for those that are unhoused in our province. But Mr. Speaker, it was the community of South Surrey White Rock that now ranks #1 when it comes to fundraising for this year's coldest night of the year. As of right now, $271,000 has been raised by the Peninsula. #1 in that category was led by White Rock Baptist Church, and I thank them for their contributions. But I want to single out somebody here specifically, and that is White Rock City Councillor Ernie Klassen for the work that he's done specifically with the White Rock Pride Society. Ernie Klassen himself has raised over $27,000. So way to go, Ernie. We are definitely proud of you. I want to signal out the Chilly Knights, led by Mayor Megan Knight and Carrie Lynn Finley, Member of Parliament for Surrey White Rock, who was in the top 10 of fundraising. So it was a great event held. Particular thanks to Mark Burchell and David Young, CEO of Sources. Mark and David have worked tirelessly for this event, and we are so lucky to have them in our community and call them friends. So thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Surrey Panorama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We all do important work here and in our constituency offices, but one of my favourite things to do is to actually get out and be in the community, with the community. A couple of weeks ago, I had the pleasure to participate at an event, the International South Asian Film Festival, Lark Productions and CBC. They transformed City Hall into the red carpet location for the premiere screening of the new show, Allegiance, a show that was not only filmed in Surrey, but the stories take place in Surrey. The evening began with high-energy Bhangra dance, it was Surrey after all, followed by a screening of the show. Afterwards, there was a question and answer with the stars, Supinda Warich and Enrico Colatoni, and the creator Anar Ali, concluding with a wonderful reception. Surrey is a magnet for the film industry. As the week continued, I was invited by the Zimbabwe Cultural Society to speak to a group of African newcomers. It was a great opportunity to talk about government services and to hear their stories of why they chose Canada and Surrey to be their home. I attended the welcoming day of Francophones that celebrated the diversity of French-speaking newcomers. Although my French is no longer as good as it was when I moved here from Quebec, the messages translated well through the food, the art, the music, and the dance. And yes, I danced. Le Relais Sebe did a great job of connecting Francophone newcomers with services in their community and showing them that pieces of home can be found here in Surrey. This weekend ended with a celebratory Lunar New Year festival co-hosted by the White Rock South Surrey Chinese and Wa Chia Multicultural Societies. The event was packed with people, food and entertainment. Red envelopes and dragons were everywhere, and the evening was filled with cultural performances from people of all ages. Surrey is a magnet for our world's diversity. Thank you.
Opposition House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what is the best birthday that you've ever had? Well, for Kamloops native Logan Stankoven, it was probably this past Monday when he scored his first ever goal in the NHL, on his 21st birthday, no less. Logan is the former captain and star of our beloved Kamloops Blazers hockey team, and what an incredible WHL career he's had during his time in Kamloops, the Blazers being the only team in the WHL that he ever played for. He became an amazing playmaker, someone with immense talent, but also incredible grit and unwavering leadership in the dressing room. During his junior career, he also played in several international championships. He scored the game-winning goal in the 2021 U18 World Championships, bringing home gold for his team. And as a member of Team Canada in the World Juniors, he won 2 consecutive gold medals and was named one of Canada's 3 best players in both years. In 2021, Logan was selected by the Dallas Stars in the second round of the NHL entry draft, going on to sign a 3-year contract. And on February 24th of this year, he was finally called up from Dallas's AHL affiliate to play in the NHL for the first time. 2 days later, in his second ever NHL game, and on his birthday, he scored his first goal, also getting an assist for his team. Head coach Pete DeBoer reported that Logan is quite fitting right in. Well, no kidding. And if you're wondering what Logan had to say about the game, well, he said, and I quote, "It was unreal." Today, all of Kamloops sends our congratulations and support to Logan on his incredible achievement. Logan, we are very proud of you. We've enjoyed watching you throughout these years. We've been honored to see your career unfold, and we certainly can't wait to see the great things that you do next in the NHL.
Member for Vancouver West End.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, today is the rarest of rare days. It is a leap day, February 29th. It is also Rare Disease Day. Rare diseases impact people 1 in 2,000 is defined as a rare disease. But indeed, in some folks' lives, folks close to me, that might be 1 in 100,000. Others that we know, 1 in a million. Diseases that have names that are very difficult to pronounce, acronyms that are long, every alphabet letter in the universe, every number. There's over 7,000 rare diseases, and in fact, many in our province, well, I should say a few in our province, I know are facing diseases that as of yet don't have names. But today is not a day for sorrow. Today is a day to celebrate those who are living lives with rare diseases, their caregivers, their loved ones. It's a day to celebrate them because they are brave. They face challenges that few of us have to face. They're rare challenges. On top of living your everyday life, These are challenges of not knowing what you're facing, not knowing if it'll come back, not knowing if the disease that you're dealing with is going to be helped by the medication you take or hurt, because they're still trying to figure it out, Honourable Speaker. I want to acknowledge those heroes. I want to acknowledge those patient networks, those advocates, the nurses, the Children's Hospital, the researchers, the life sciences folks in our province, and indeed across the world, because it's a community that spans the globe. If it affects only one Canadian, you can tell there's others all across the globe who are being affected too, and they're joining together through online support to find cures, to find therapy. So on this Rare Disease Day, I say to those living with rare diseases and those supporting people living with rare diseases, we love you, we see you, you're important, and we will work for you. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Member for Saanich North and Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canada adopted the National Housing Strategy in 2019. It recognizes housing as a human right. It commits organizations and governments to reform housing laws, policies, and programs from a human rights perspective and to involve communities in meaningful ways. So what does a commitment to housing as a human right look like? Well, it starts with an urgent focus on the people with the greatest housing need. Unhoused people currently camping in parks, shelters, and on the streets. It's a total dedication to protecting the dignity of the person, basic access to washrooms, to showers, to laundry and storage facilities. It's a commitment to housing options where they're needed, that meet the imperative needs of the most desperate British Columbians. Next, it's a commitment to people with insecure housing who are at risk of becoming unhoused and offering the relief of housing security, a place that they call home that won't be taken away at a moment's notice. It's immediate steps to remove the anxiety and stress caused by housing insecurity. And then it's a commitment to housing. A commitment to housing as a human right addresses the need of people with inadequate and unaffordable housing, helping people access the homes they need to live good, dignified lives, ensuring people have options, that they can move homes, change jobs, start a family without worrying about side hustles and pouring every cent into ever-increasing rent payments. Housing as a human right is a province-wide commitment, a commitment to meet people where they are and help them access the homes they need, a commitment to take active steps to provide for all people, starting with the most urgent and desperate need. And when we fail them, we fail all.
Member for Surrey Cloverdale.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Last November, my office held an open house for our seniors in our community rec centre to share their thoughts, share their ideas, and ask their questions. For most of you, you're aware that my career as a firefighter, I have a number of co-workers who've passed away due to their occupational exposures to the toxins that they breathe. And I was speaking about our past battalion chief, Bill Robertson, who had passed away after being diagnosed with multiple myeloma. It was at this meeting that I met Betty, who I would find out later was also diagnosed with the same carcinoma I had spoken about at that meeting. And that led to a meeting in my constituency office with Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil Harbridge is the Patient Advisory Council Vice Chair and Western Canada representative for Myeloma Canada. He was asking what I could do to make Multiple Myeloma Awareness Month more prominent. So here we go. 11 Canadians are diagnosed with multiple myeloma every day. That number has steadily been rising over the last 15 years. And Stats Canada reports that myeloma is increasing at a higher rate than any other type of cancer for males and at the second highest rate for females. In recent years, considerable progress has been made, but Canadians need your help to continue and accelerate that progress. This month, we're celebrating Multiple Myeloma Awareness Month, and those in the gallery, need your help to bring awareness to this incurable cancer. More Canadians need to be made aware of the effects of this devastating disease so that those who have been diagnosed earlier can have a chance for a better outcome. Mr. Speaker, together we can get one step closer to a cure and make myeloma matter. Together, we can improve the lives of those living with the disease and look at implementing measures to improve prevention, diagnosis, and treatment wherever possible. Together, we can create a far better future for myeloma patients. Thank you.
Honourable members, with your indulgence, I would like to pay tribute to one of our former colleague, Patty Sahota. Patty was a community builder, a gracious colleague, and an example for all of us in the House about working across party lines and looking for opportunities to cooperate. She was elected in 2001 and was the first South Asian to represent Burnaby Edmonds. I was, and I am proud to follow in her footsteps. The shock of her passing has affected me deeply. From the bottom of my heart, I would like to extend my deepest condolences and sympathy to her family and friends, not only on my own behalf, but on behalf of everyone in the legislature. Member for Abbotsford West.
Like you, Mr. Speaker, I never thought we'd have to make this tribute, and desperately wish it wasn't required today. It's hard for me to believe that it was almost 30 years ago that I met Patty Sahota, but there are members of this chamber who knew her before that, because she was a kid just out of high school when she went up to Kamloops and met the now opposition House Leader and joined with a group of energetic, passionate young people who, well, they had the audacity to think that they could change the world by getting involved politically. And that's what they did. And that's what she did. She joined the BC Liberal Party at a time when the BC Liberal Party didn't have any members in this chamber. I guess we don't today either. I don't know. And she eventually signed on with Gordon Campbell and his leadership campaign, and when he became the leader of the BC Liberal Party and the leader of the official opposition, she joined his staff in his Vancouver office. And that's when I met her, just after the election in 1996. Now, you might think that in the immediate aftermath of a close election loss, there would be this cloud of disappointment hanging over the office, but Patty Sahota was the center of activity in that office, and that wasn't her style. There was a job to do, and she threw herself into that job. She could write, she could speak, she could engage with people, she could draw folks in, and that's what she did, with a boundless energy and a 1,000-watt smile. And along with folks like Mike MacDonald, she developed this network across the province that ultimately propelled her party to a historic majority in this legislative assembly. And she was still in her 20s. And but she wanted to be more than just she wanted to be more than an organizer for others. She wanted a seat at the legislative table. And so in 2000, she announced that she would seek the nomination in Burnaby Edmonds, and she secured that nomination after a hard-fought contest, and she became the MLA. And she was a pioneer, Mr. Speaker. As you mentioned, there's a little a little room. I don't know if they call it the Farnworth room. Sorry, I broke the rules there, or the DeYoung rule, or the. Anyway, it's a little room just outside the door here, and her picture hangs on the wall. And she was one of the first 70 women. It's remarkable to think that of the first 100 that are on the photo who were ever elected to this place. And she was the first woman of, along with Cindy Hawkins of South Asian descent, to sit in the cabinet in British Columbia. She, as you pointed out, Mr. Speaker, worked tirelessly as on behalf of her constituents, and I still occasionally run into former constituents who speak with admiration of the work she did on their behalf. And when the election rolled around in 2005, she threw herself into that with the usual enthusiasm. This time she was not successful, and she lost to a fellow who's gone on to have a reasonably successful political career in his own right. She was competitive. She didn't like losing, but she licked her wounds and she moved on, and she found other ways to contribute and serve her community and make it a better place. And she came to know her successor as a friend. No, as proud as she was of being an MLA, it's not what defined her. In every endeavor, she was this intelligent, beautiful person who radiated this warmth and acceptance. She was brave and fearless, the kind of bravery I guess you need to have when you arrive in merit as a 9-year-old from the Punjab with very little English. And she drew on that courage throughout her life, whether it was on the basketball court or in a provincial all-candidates meeting. She never backed down, and she was never intimidated. She was an intensely proud Canadian. She showed me her village in Punjab one time, and she observed how wonderfully different her life had been because of the sacrifices her parents had made to bring the family to Canada, to BC, and to merit. And she thought and was thankful for all of the opportunities. She taught me a lot about where she was from, that part of the world. Today, her mom and dad are grieving the loss of their beloved Patty, her sisters, Nundan, Navy, Neelam, nieces, nephews, cousins, the folks that she worked with at Aspen Planers. And I know that the members of this assembly will want to convey, along with you, Mr. Speaker, to all of them our heartfelt condolences as we remember this really extraordinary woman, a former colleague, a friend, who left an indelible mark on BC, but who left us too soon.
Thank you, Member. Madam Clerk.
Oral questions by members.
Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Keith Light is the latest victim of the Premier's housing failures. At 77 years old, this former construction worker has been trapped in a 2-year-long wait for a call from BC Housing that never comes. Keith's New Year's Eve was spent in an old RV, desperately trying to stay warm, as he, and I quote, just laid there and visualized BC Housing calling me and saying, "We have a place for you," end of quote. Now, we as the official opposition have been calling for 2 years now for this government to listen to the seniors advocate and fix the long wait lists that have exploded under this NDP government. I can tell you, BC United will certainly fix it. We'll update the Safer Rent Subsidies program immediately to reflect the current housing market and actually support our seniors. And so my question to the Premier is, the Safer Rent Subsidies have not changed for 6 years. Why is this Premier failing to help seniors who aren't getting the help they need while they sit stuck on BC housing wait lists?
Here, here.
Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And the story of Keith is a challenging one for all of us. I've met in this role as Minister of Housing, unfortunately, too many Keiths. It's really hard to hear from people who are, whether they have worked their entire lives and then find themselves on the verge of homelessness, or if they're a young family who's working full-time and can't find housing in their community and find themselves living in RVs. It's tragic. It's really difficult for me, but I do meet with folks and listen to them and hear from them about what the pathway is. How do we address this? We know, Honourable Speaker, we are 2 decades behind when it comes to investing in affordable housing. Governments decided that they didn't want to invest in it, that we would just leave it to the private sector alone.
Members.
Serious
Please
question. I'm trying
continue.
to give a serious answer. Governments believe that we could just step out of the way and let the private sector deal with it. Private sector has an important role, but it's going to require government investments. We've been making historic investments. Now, the member talked about SAFER. The member will know that when we came into government, SAFER was the funding was very low. We, in fact, increased the funding in 2018 by 48%. Now, the program serves 20,000 seniors in British Columbia. I think helps a lot of people. And we do acknowledge that it needs more reform. We have launched a review of the program. The review is complete. We're just going through the details of the recommendations. I met with the seniors advocate as well and shared with her my commitment, the shared commitment that we're going to continue to build housing, invest in housing, and support seniors as the challenges we're dealing with global inflation and the housing crisis continue.
Leader of the Official Opposition, supplemental.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, a classic NDP, more reviews, more meetings, more emails, more bureaucracy, everything but actual results for the people that need that help today, right now. Here's the reality, Mr. Speaker. The seniors advocate, okay, who's there to represent the interests of seniors and reports to this legislature, the seniors advocate says that BC seniors receive less support than seniors in any other province. In fact, British Columbia rates the worst in the country under this government. Under this Premier's watch, while he was the minister responsible for housing, overseeing BC Housing, the Crown agency responsible for this, the wait list for seniors subsidized housing has doubled. And despite running a record-setting historic deficit, the largest in the history of this province, in spite of doubling the provincial debt, in spite of the fact that they want to increase it by another 64% over the next 3 years, somehow this Premier couldn't be bothered to just increase the subsidies for our most vulnerable seniors. Seniors like Carol Fawcett from Vernon are being neglected by this NDP government. She says, and again I quote, "It's absolutely disrespectful how seniors are treated by the government in that we don't even have enough to live with any dignity or respect." End of quote. How can this Premier continue to fail seniors who rely on the SAFER subsidy program so badly, despite running up the largest deficit in the history of the province of British Columbia?
Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And as I said to the member previously, when I said governments for 2 decades decided not to invest in affordable housing, perhaps he didn't realize I was talking about him and his party. For 2 decades, there was a decision made by governments not to invest in affordable housing. And so now...
Members, please.
It's recognized.
Members. Minister has the floor.
The level of affordable housing that was needed for the last 2 decades in British Columbia has not been built in communities throughout this province, Honourable Speaker. The member knows that. The member knows it. Oh, he doesn't know that. Oh, that's a surprise that the Leader of the Opposition doesn't know.
Members, let's have one speaker at a time, please. One person at a time. Minister will continue.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Perhaps to refresh the member across the way, the leader of the official opposition memory, I'll send him a list of the projects that they cancelled, affordable housing projects they cancelled in 2001 in communities. In fact, my colleague here has one in his community as well. Now, Honourable Speaker, the challenge is real. We know that. We have seen our population continue to increase. We welcome people to British Columbia. But at the same time, the amount of housing has not increased. It's a real challenge. And we're not alone in dealing with this challenge. This is a challenge that's being dealt with by provinces across the country, jurisdictions across North America. Met recently with representatives from Ireland who are dealing with the same challenges. How are we responding, Honourable Speaker? We increased the SAFER program by 42% from what they were funding it, 42%, Honourable Speaker. We still have more to do. We're investing historic levels of dollars into building actually affordable housing that people can afford in our communities. We're unlocking housing, Honourable Speaker, by allowing 3, 4, 6 units on single-family lots. We're protecting our housing stock with a rental protection fund, Honourable Speaker. All of this work is on a pathway to address the challenge we have. We have a serious plan with Homes for People plan, Honourable Speaker. Unfortunately, I haven't heard anything serious from the opposition.
Member for Surrey White Rock.
Day after day, we see this Minister of Housing, time after time, misrepresent in this House, and it needs to stop, and it needs to stop today. At what point will this minister actually take responsibility for the utter failure we are seeing in housing today in British Columbia? Young families are seeing the dreams of home ownership disappear. And the Premier, he peddles a fantasy of government schemes and empty announcements to the rescue. His track record tells a different story. Whether it's the utter mismanagement and the scandals of BC Housing, which include mass board firings and the fatal fire we saw at the Winters Hotel, what do we see? We see a surge in homelessness of 34% in Metro Vancouver alone. That is this minister's record, this Premier's record, and they need to take responsibility for it. And now we see a damning new report called "This Isn't Working." And it says homelessness will skyrocket a further 50%. Considering this Premier's dismal record, how can anybody believe what they are doing, including those making nearly $200,000 a year in terms of subsidies, will actually turn out any different when he has constantly failed those who are in dire need?
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. We met with the folks who wrote this report. We acknowledge that there are still challenges that we need to address in the community, in the downtown east side, Honourable Speaker. But what they made clear, and perhaps if the members took time to meet with them before they asked this question, was that there was nothing happening for people in the downtown east side before we formed government. The level of action that was needed was not happening, Honourable Speaker.
Members. You will have the opportunity to come back and ask another question to correct if you feel it's not. No, hold it. Let's hear the minister. He has the floor.
If the members are serious about this question, I welcome them to go and meet with the people who wrote the report and hear from them about what they believe was the record of that party when they were in government compared to ours, Honourable Speaker. They will tell you that we've opened 1,400 supportive housing units in Vancouver since we formed government. They will tell you that we have either purchased or renovated 600 new SRO units in the downtown east side. They will tell you that we provide $11 million for the SRO Collaborative to support the most vulnerable people. They'll tell you that we're funding a brand new project of 103 homes for Indigenous people with Luma and First United. They will tell you, Honourable Speaker, that we are funding 170 homes and 80 new shelters with the Vancouver Aboriginal Friendship Centre, Honourable Speaker. I recommend before they ask questions about this report that they meet with the folks who wrote the report so they can get the true facts of what the challenges are.
Surrey White Rock supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'll give this minister a number. It's the number 2. So number 2, that's 2 years without heat. That's 2 months without hot water. That is the situation at the Cedar Lane Motel. That is the situation this ministry has known about for over a month and a half. So when he talks about meetings, has he gone and met with the seniors at the Cedar Lane Motel to see the absolutely abysmal conditions they're living day in and day out? Minister, have you met with them? Because the answer is no, you haven't.
Through the chair.
So residents like Don McKay are living this day in and day out. They are forced in this situation. They get eviction notices based on permits that don't exist. The RTB knows this. The minister knows this. What do we hear from the minister? Nothing. We hear silence. So, to the premier, to the minister, what is it going to take for him to get up and do his job so people like Don and the seniors at the Cedar Lane Motel aren't living in the absolutely abysmal conditions this minister has put them in today?
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Every time I or my colleagues hear about an incident where people are struggling, where there's a challenge, we take steps to respond. Every single time. Now, the folks that are living in this privately owned motel had some serious concerns that came forward. The Compliance Enforcement Unit, which we created on our side to take proactive action, stepped in. They've taken steps to reach out to the owner, inform the owner of their responsibility to ensure there's hot water. They've also been given a permit by the City of Surrey for redevelopment of that project. Honourable Speaker.
Members, please
The
continue.
member is highlighting a private party that is not following their obligations to the renters. And if he is upset about that, well, then I concur with him. I agree with him. If he's upset about that, I'm upset about that as well. We have taken steps to use the Compliance Enforcement Unit to step in to inform this owner of this building that what they're doing with their tenants is inappropriate. I'm agreeing with the member. Now, the solution to the challenges, Honourable Speaker, is we have to unlock more housing supply in our province. That's what the legislation that we brought in last fall was about. We have to invest in direct, affordable housing, Honourable Speaker, which we're doing at a historic amount. We have to protect our existing housing stock. That's what we were doing in Esquimalt yesterday when we protected 16 homes for people who were about to be displaced because a private interest was going to buy it and jack up their rents. Honourable Speaker, all the steps we're doing is to address the challenges that the members laid out. And so we're going to continue to do that work because we know that every single person in British Columbia deserves to have a safe, affordable place that they can call home.
Thank you. House Leader of the Third Party.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under this Minister of Health, spending has increased from $18 billion when he took the office to $36 billion now. A year ago, the minister agreed to adopt minimum nurse-patient ratios. The minister told nurses that help was on the way. However, the experience of British Columbians trying to access health care and Stats Canada paint a different picture, Mr. Speaker, than the version of exceptionalism that we hear day in and day out. According to Stats Canada, there are nearly 5,500 vacant job postings for nurses across the province. BC nurses are here today. They want less announcements from the minister and more supports. More supports to retain nurses, including a provincially coordinated plan to address the systemic workplace health and safety concerns that have been raised over and over and over again. The minister's $36 billion health care system is in crisis, Mr. Speaker. What is his plan to retain nurses, and will he deliver a provincial plan to address the health and safety concerns he's known about and failed to solve?
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and we're doing just that. We're working specifically with nurses in British Columbia on the issue of nurse ratios, a historic commitment that we're putting into place, Honourable Speaker. In the last number of years, we've led Canada in new registered nurses, including last year, Honourable Speaker. The increase, Honourable Speaker, in the 12 months of 2023 was more than 6,000, Honourable Speaker. That has involved the increases we've made in nursing spaces, the improved pathways to internationally educated nurses, and the dramatic increase in number of spaces for nurse practitioner, more than double they were when I became Minister of Health. Honourable Speaker, finally, I would say with respect to the issue of health and safety, one of the key proposals by the BC Nurses Union, by the Hospital Employees Union, by the Health Sciences Association, by the doctors of BC, was to change the system of security in acute care. We said we'd do it. We said we'd hire 320 people in a year. We put in place a new relational security model, and we have delivered on behalf of nurses and others in BC.
House Leader, third party supplemental.
What's doubled is this healthcare minister's budget, and yet our healthcare system is still in deep, deep crisis. You know who is doing well under this minister, and that's private healthcare corporations. They're doing really well under this minister. One of the ways he's tried to address the shortage of nurses is through the expansion of agency nurses. The Premier wondered out loud recently, quote, how adding profit margin to the limited number of healthcare workers, how we have somehow improves services for people. It's a question that the Premier asked, and it's a good question from the Premier, and I'm wondering if he asked the Minister of Health right before jacking up his budget again this year. This Minister of Health is relying on agency nurses, adding cost to the system, and profit, Mr. Speaker, for corporations. Dispirited nurses, exhausted by the lack of support by this $36 billion minister, leave the public service to join the for-profit healthcare system. The result is a 400% increase in spending for agency nurses over the past 4 years to the $36 billion minister. We're seeing creeping privatization of healthcare under his watch. It appears to be his strategy. He's doing it with public money. When is he going to come clean and just admit that's what he's doing?
Minister of Health.
Honourable Speaker, the facts are the opposite, Honourable Speaker. The facts are the opposite. We have the largest capital building program in the history of the BC healthcare system. Every one of those projects, Health Authority owned and operated, Honourable Speaker. With respect to nursing, Honourable Speaker, we've increased 602 nursing spaces in British Columbia's colleges and universities. We've improved pathways to internationally educated nurses. We're leading Canada in new nurses, while other jurisdictions such as Alberta have lost nurses in the same period, Honourable Speaker. The fact of the matter is we are working with nurses as we worked with doctors, Honourable Speaker, to ensure that working conditions for nurses improve, that nurse ratios are put in place in British Columbia, and that we're adding nurses to our system. The facts say that, Honourable Speaker. The member can be opposed. The member is suggesting he's opposed to more money to pay for health care when we have 650,000 people across British Columbia.
Members.
If that's what he's saying, I disagree with him, Honourable Speaker.
Members.
I disagree with him, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker.
Members.
Talk about results. Leading Canada in new nurses. Putting in place, Honourable Speaker, we had around 300 nurse practitioners in BC when I became Minister of Health. We now have more than 1,000. That's important. That's a change. That's an increase. We led Canada in new registered nurses. Hasn't always been the case. There's one health minister who lost registered nurses in the history of BC healthcare. That was the leader of the opposition. But we are leading Canada in new registered nurses, and we're going to continue to recruit, retain, and make life better for nurses in British Columbia.
House Leader of the Fourth Party. Members.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I've had the opportunity to speak at length with Melanie, the mother of Sophia, who tragically died. Melanie told me a bit about her daughter, Sophia, and I would want to share some of what she shared with me with the House today. Sophia was a fighter. She was a ball of energy and passion, and she had a way of speaking with people with incredible love and care to anyone, no matter who they were. She was the kind of person who wanted to help everyone. Mr. Speaker, Melanie told me that Sophia actually wanted to become a medical doctor so she could help British Columbia heal. Sadly, Sophia could not afford the debt, and she didn't have the ability to spend almost a decade at university. So she did the next best thing. She started helping with our most vulnerable. Mr. Speaker, every British Columbian deserves a doctor, and every child born in British Columbia deserves the opportunity to become one if they want to do so. My question to the Minister of Finance: what percentage of new spending on health in the 2024 budget is going towards allowing more British Columbian kids to become doctors so that they can help heal our province?
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. And of course, it would be, I think, wrong not to say how much everyone in BC feels for Sophia and for her family. I appreciate the member raising her story again in the legislature today. The way we get more doctors in BC is to add spaces in medical schools. We're adding 128 at UBC Medical School, and we're starting a second medical school, the first in generations in Western Canada at SFU in Surrey. The way you get more doctors is to increase pathways for internationally educated doctors, and we've done just that. 938 registered in 2023 alone. The way you get more doctors in longitudinal family practice is to work with doctors in BC and with nurse practitioners in BC. And this was a record year for longitudinal family practice and doctors, more than 708 doctors in longitudinal family practice in 9 months, Honourable Speaker. You work with people, you take steps to make workplaces better, you add primary care networks and team-based care, you increase spaces in medical schools, you improve pathways to international medical and for international medical graduates, and finally, Honourable Speaker, you respect doctors in their work, whether they're doctors in public health or anywhere else.
House Leader of the Fourth Party Supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, as we have heard in this House, the Leader of the Opposition was the one that made the cuts to BC's healthcare system that got BC's healthcare system to this point. In 32 years, there's been 16 years of incompetence by the Leader of the BC United and now this NDP Health Minister. When I talked with Melanie,
Members, come to order, please. Members, no cross-talking, please. Member has the floor.
When I talked with Melanie, she told me that she had an infant son who also died due to delayed medical treatment. And she herself, like a million other British Columbians, does not have a doctor. BC's healthcare system has failed her twice, and she's deathly afraid it's going to fail her. I want to read from a post that Melanie shared on her personal social media, and I quote, "I find it odd to hear my name and things I've said,
Question,
along
member.
with my daughter's name, come
Member,
out in
let's
the
have a question,
mouths
please.
of politicians." You know, out of respect for a woman that has lost 2 infants, I think this House should pay attention to the words that she said. "I find it odd to hear my name of things I've said, along with my daughter's name, come out of the mouths of politicians who have not even spoken to me or acknowledged my letter to them. Our government of British Columbia has failed me twice, and it's despicable. I deserve an acknowledgement and an apology from a few people in our provincial government, the NDP Minister of Health, the Premier, Dr. Henry, and since he's used my comments, Kevin Falcon." End quote.
Question, member.
Mr. Speaker, my question to the Minister of Health: will you commit to formally apologizing to Melanie and get in touch with her, and will you ask the Premier and Dr. Henry to do the same?
Minister of Health.
Well, Honourable Speaker, I'd say a few things in response. I just say to the opposition House Leader, I don't plan to take a long time, but I'm just going to say this really very solemnly. I understand that they have questions to ask as well. I just say that these are obviously, this is profoundly filled with grief, not just for Melanie, but for the whole community, right? And one of the things I think we owe in this matter is rigorous, independent investigation. One of the things we did in this House, Minister was George Habit, and I was the opposition critic, was work together to put just such processes in place so that independent information would be developed and shared with families in the first instance and with the community to make the healthcare system better. And I am absolutely committed to that. absolutely committed to going through a rigorous process of doing that, because I think that's really what we owe in these circumstances, which is the facts and a real effort to get at the truth and make things better, and that's what I'll continue to try and do. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
Member for Kelowna, Michelle.
3 years have passed since the introduction of the Early Learning and Childcare Act. At the time, and the NDP called it a milestone that would, and I quote, confirm government's ongoing commitment to make childcare more affordable and increase transparency and accountability by requiring the province to produce annual reports on its progress towards building a universal childcare system, end quote. Yet 3 years later, not a single section of this legislation has been enacted. And the only things parents get are glossy NDP brochures, press releases, and rhetoric, not transparency or accountability. Simple question to the Premier. Why hasn't the Act been brought into force?
Minister of State for Childcare.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. We know that childcare is absolutely a vital core service that families need and rely on across the province, and it's also one of the largest expenses facing families today in the province, and so we have been taking action, Honourable Speaker. There are over 13,000 $10 a day childcare spaces in BC. We're on track to hit 15,000 by this spring. And also with the affordable childcare benefit, over 35,000 children and their families are supported monthly, so that lower middle income families are saving over $1,000 a month, Honourable Speaker. So there are many thousands and thousands of families who are experiencing $10 a day or less, and some families are not paying at all for childcare. We know that when the other side were in government, they treated childcare as a luxury, and they would do that again, Honourable Speaker. Our families in British Columbia cannot afford to go back. We will continue investing in building this new system of services.
Member for Cariboo-Chilcotin.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of Tourism and Sport has promised complete transparency and claims to know approximately how much FIFA 2026 will cost. So a simple question today to the Minister: how much is FIFA 2026 going to cost taxpayers in this province?
Government House Leader.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and thanks to the member for the question. I think most British Columbians are very excited about the idea that we're going to be hosting the world. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for us to host the world in a soccer match. I know that there are soccer fans on both sides, Honourable Speaker. When we first were putting a proposal forward for FIFA, we were hoping for 5 games. And much to our surprise and happiness, we now have 7. Now, with that additional 2 games, it means we have to make sure that we're prepared for the additional capacity that's needed. That's the work that's happening right now. Once we've done the analysis on what the additional games mean, what the cost will be associated, certainly we'll be making all of that public.
Member for Surrey South.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Under the NDP's watch, our streets have become a battleground of gang warfare, with gangs armed with deadly automatic weapons like those used in a recent shootout in a residential neighbourhood of White Rock. The #1 funding source for these murderous gangs is the illicit drug trade, bolstered by diverted safe supply programs and the NDP-endorsed organizations like the Drug Users Liberation Front. Evidence of this is mounting as seen in a major RCMP operation in Campbell River, where police seized kilograms of fentanyl, cocaine, methamphetamine, and thousands of hydromorphone pills diverted from safe supply prescriptions alongside $30,000 in cash. Why does the Premier continue this taxpayer-funded drug trafficking that's putting money and guns into the hands of gangs?
Hear, hear.
Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I appreciate the question from the member. And what I can tell the members, I think the police forces and agencies in our province are doing an outstanding job in interdicting illegal drug trafficking, weapons, and other criminal activities and gang-related activities in our province. What I can tell you that there have been new initiatives launched to ensure that we are doing everything we can to interdict firearms coming across into our province, working closely with the federal government.
Member. Minister, continue, please.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I note the member started off by asking the question about the use of these firearms, dangerous firearms which put communities at risk, which we know are illegal in Canada and have come from across the border in the United States, Honourable Speaker. And what we as a province have been doing along with other provinces is advocating with the federal government to have tougher restrictions in place, to have more resources at our border to be able to do better inspections in terms of dealing with the interdiction of illegal firearms. And I can tell you that the resources that we have put in place to assist police in their investigations have been paying dividends. We have seen significant drug busts in the last number of months, Honourable Speaker, that have seen arrests and convictions and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of drugs seized that will no longer be on the street, Honourable Speaker. We are taking action and we will continue to do so.
The bell ends question period. Member for Carrick-Chilcotin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to introduce a petition from 60 residents of Tara Ridge and Williams Lake. The petition of Tara Ridge, PGS 189, states that they're looking to qualify for assistance. Mr. Speaker, they respectfully request that the Honourable House recommend assistance for those who incurred structural damages that have occurred due to unexpected land movement and Tara Ridge PGS 189 and are currently uninsurable.
Thank you, Member. Members, I have the honor to table the report of the Working Group on Parliamentary Culture titled Working Together to Build a Better Parliamentary Culture at the Legislative Assembly of British Columbia. And after this, the members of the Working Group will be making some comments. The first one is Member for Vancouver-Kensington.
Honourable Speaker, I seek leave to move a motion to permit members of the Working Group on Parliamentary Culture to speak to its report.
Shall leave be granted? Proceed.
Honourable Speaker, I move that the Working Group on Parliamentary Culture be permitted to speak. I have the motion. Thank you. And you'll recall that the Working Group on Parliamentary Culture was established in May 2023 by the Speaker, our Honourable Raj Chauhan, and pleased to be joined by the members for Surrey South and also Couch and Valley to examine the Legislative Assembly's programs, procedures and practices and identify potential ways to strengthen respect and support for members from all parties, backgrounds and identities, including indigeneity, race and ethnicity, gender, disability, sexual orientation and gender identity and expression, religion and age, and to ensure that every member experiences a safe and respectful workplace and is supported to carry out their important work without barriers. I want to thank all the current and former members who shared their experiences, challenges and ideas with BC's first Working Group on Parliamentary Culture. And in the summer and fall of 2023, the Working Group contracted an external consultant, ADR Education, to help and assist. And just a great participation. In total, 79 of 87 current members and several former members completed the survey, and several current and former members also participated in interviews. We heard unanimously that members, all members on all sides are deeply committed to serving their communities and representing their constituents and strengthening public service and democracy. We also heard that there are opportunities for improvements in the way our institutions function. And we heard from some current and former members that they've experienced disrespect, bullying, harassment, and discrimination. The report contains 17 recommendations along the themes of orientation, learning and professional development, a welcoming and inclusive institution, a family-friendly institution, a respectful workplace, and order and decorum. These recommendations will require collective action from the Speaker, House leaders, party leaders, and members, all members of the Legislative Assembly. I want to thank the clerk, Kate Ryan Lloyd, and also Karen Riard, the Parliamentary Committee's clerk. Again, deep appreciation to my committee committee members, the MLAs from Surrey South and Cowichan Valley, and I look forward to working with all members and the Legislative Assembly administration on these efforts to improve parliamentary culture. Thank you.
Members, before the chair recognizes the next member of the working group, I will recognizing the leader of the official opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, as I seek leave to make a very brief introduction.
Is leave provided? Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Visiting here from Vancouver, I'm really thrilled to have one of our Vancouver constituents, Curtis Braber, who's visiting here in the gallery with his son Lincoln, who's 12 years old. I want to recognize them here today.
Member for Surrey South.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It's been my privilege to represent the official opposition in the Working Group on Parliamentary Culture, and it was an honour to work collaboratively with my colleagues, the MLA for Vancouver Kensington and the leader of the third party and MLA for Cowichan Valley, also as well as working alongside of you, Mr. Speaker, and the Clerk of the Legislative Assembly and her staff in the Clerk's office. Our working group was tasked with identifying ways to strengthen respect and support for members from all parties, backgrounds, and identities. We also sought to strengthen the ways in which the BC Legislature reflects the diversity of our province and a place where all British Columbians can see themselves reflected. Throughout our deliberations, there was a consistent theme that emerged, that all members come to the Legislative Assembly with a common purpose, to serve their communities and our province. As members of the Legislative Assembly, we also have a shared responsibility in maintaining a workplace environment that shows respect not only for our colleagues and the public, but also respect for the democratic institution that we serve. One of the aspects that I hold very dear is that the recommendations that are being made in this report have come from the introspection and reflection of members of this Legislative Assembly, both past and present. I want to express my sincere gratitude to all current and former members of the BC Legislature who shared their experiences, both positive and those that were challenging, along with their ideas on how we can work together to build a better parliamentary culture and to support every member to fulfill that common purpose to serve their communities and our province. Thank you.
Leader of the third party and member of the working group.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I just want to add my comments along with my colleagues from the working group. And I will start with an appreciation to my colleagues, to the member for Vancouver Kensington, the member for Surrey South, to yourself, Mr. Speaker, to the clerk and her team, and in particular to Karen Riar and Mary Newell, who worked very hard to keep us to our schedule and ensure that we are presenting this report on time. Cedar George Parker is a sail-tooth youth. He's been here in the chamber. I have spoken of him before. He's the son of Chief Reuben George. And he often says something that sticks with me so deeply. We need to humanize our politics and indigenize our institutions. The work of our working group stemmed from the powerful words of Melanie Mark in her last speech in this chamber. As an Indigenous woman, BC's first Indigenous minister, she described this room as a torture chamber. We did not succeed in humanizing our politics and indigenizing our institution for her. The culture of this institution is shaped by all of us. How we practice as parliamentarians, how we treat each other, the respect we show for the institution, and the respect we show for the public that we serve. A lot of the recommendations of this report are focused on ways to build relationships across party lines, focused on ways that we humanize our politics and each other. A number of the recommendations also focus on ways that we continue to, as we have been under the guidance and leadership of our clerk and our speaker, indigenize our institution. We had frank, honest, productive, and constructive conversations and discussions, and I am proud of the report and recommendations that we bring forward today. How we practice as MLAs, how we root our practice in purpose as parliamentarians shapes our culture. A commitment to that humanizing of our politics and each other, a recognition that we have a deeply rooted culture of governance on these lands, a culture of Indigenous governance that goes back thousands and thousands of years. That culture can help guide us to be better shepherds of this institution and of the fragile and precious democracy that I know we all want to protect. My thanks to all members, current and past, who participated in the survey. My thanks again to my fellow working group members, and my thanks to the Speaker and the Clerk for their guidance and leadership.
Member?
I may correct Cedar Parker George. Thank you.
Member, the question was moving of the report to read and received. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Orders of the day.
Government House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I call continued debate on the budget here in the main house.
Minister of State for Childcare.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. It's a real honour to continue my response to the budget, and I'd like to continue talking about childcare, actually, because childcare is vitally important to families and to future generations, and we know that for far too many families, it's really difficult to find childcare and to be able to afford childcare. And so we have been working hard in taking action on increasing the number of spaces available across the province and making sure that childcare is affordable for families across British Columbia as well. And families want accessible, affordable, good quality, inclusive childcare for their children. What I've heard from families, they've been in my office in tears, is that the affordability measures that we've taken, the supports that we've provided through the childcare system for families in being able to pay for childcare has been absolutely life-changing. And we're putting money back into the pockets of families across the province, which we know at the moment is really important to them because of global inflation and because childcare was treated as such a luxury for far too long that it was actually priced out of reach for so many families as well. And by being able to put money back in the pockets of parents and of families, it means they can make other choices. They can make other choices about investing in the future education for their children, investing in more nutritional food, investing in after-school activities, for example. And in Esquimalt-Machosen alone, Honourable Speaker, since we started the Childcare BC plan in 2018, $63.5 million has been invested in the childcare system, in new spaces, in subsidies, in supporting childcare operators. And of that, $28 million has been put back in the pockets of families in Esquimalt-Machosen alone, Honourable Speaker. And there are similar figures around the province for all of the other constituencies as well. We know that investing in early learning actually improves the educational outcomes for children and young people as well. It supports their transition from early care into kindergarten and into the school system. And it also provides a routine and provides expectations and teaches children about self-regulation, about play, about a routine through the day, and that it gets transferred into their relationship with their family and back into their family situation. It actually, I've heard from parents, I've heard so many stories about how having a really good quality early learning placement for their child really benefits the quality of life for the whole family as well. We know that these children today in early learning centres and transitioning into K-12 system are the future professionals who are going to be leading the economy of the province in the future as well, and supporting access to affordable, quality, inclusive, accessible childcare is really good for the economy. And my whole career has been supporting families through community endeavours and supporting people who have been more marginalised to be able to thrive and to fulfil their potential, and making sure that there's access to good quality, affordable, inclusive childcare really meets that need as well. It's really supporting women working full-time, having more choices, being able to pursue their education, for example. In 2023 alone, 28,000 more women were working full-time in British Columbia than in 2022. That's really in my previous role, when I was running an organisation here in British Columbia, my agency was actually responsible for a childcare service. And so I have direct experience of knowing how to administer the programme, what the stresses are of having staff call in at 7 in the morning saying they're sick and they can't come into work, supporting the manager and making sure that the floor is covered according to licensing regulations. And the childcare that we delivered was actually delivered on school grounds, and we moved it into a brand new high school as well. So I know how significant and beneficial childcare is for the school community. Our childcare was targeted at young students who had had a child, and so their child could be in the school, they could complete their education and still have time with their child, be able to breastfeed, be able to continue bonding with their child. But the childcare also benefited the whole school community. And that's one of the areas that we're giving priority to at the moment, Honourable Speaker, knowing that for families, they want to have childcare either close to their home or close to where they work. And it makes sense if you're taking children to school that you have childcare at school as well. And that really benefits those children because their transition into that school system is made so much easier and so much more successful because they're already part of the school community and they're already getting used to and familiar with the routine, with the surroundings, with the people, and it actually leads to better outcomes for those children as well. And so our Childcare BC plan is really contributing to improving the economy and improving quality of life for families. And in fact, many families now see that they actually have a choice because childcare is more accessible and more affordable. And so we have really seen referrals shoot up. Families are wanting to make that choice. They're wanting to get training. They're wanting to go back to work. And we know that we need more people back in the workforce as well. And we don't want families to lose out on opportunities. We want them to be able to thrive and to fulfill their potential throughout the whole of their lifespan as well. Thousands of BC families are benefiting from lower childcare fees through the Childcare Fee Reduction Initiative, the $10 a day Childcare BC programme, and through the Affordable Childcare Benefit. So we actually have a range of programmes and people can access more than one programme. And so we actually have nearly 15,000 families accessing $10 a day programming. And even before and after school care is now subsidised as well, up to $145 per child every month. And since December 2022, families with kindergarten-aged and younger children accessing care in a participating licensed childcare programme, 96% of providers and operators have opted into our programming. And they've been saving up to $900 per month per child. Honourable Speaker, you can appreciate how and why families are saying to me this is life-changing. That's nearly $10,000 a year per child. That makes this very affordable. We will actually have 20,000 $10 a day spaces by 2025-26. And the affordable childcare benefit is available for low and middle income families as well. And through that programme and through the $10 a day and the other programmes, some families, depending on their income, are not paying for childcare at all. They're able to access good quality childcare for their child, and they're actually not paying for it. And over 140,000 families are accessing one of our programmes, at least one of our programmes. And so they are receiving much more affordable childcare spaces and before and after school care as well. And this just really improves the quality of family life. It improves opportunities for families to be able to make choices and improve the quality of life for their family now and for the longer term as well. We're also making childcare more accessible. So we've actually funded the creation of more than 34,000 new spaces. We actually have over 146,000 licensed childcare spaces in British Columbia. And when we started the Childcare BC programme, there was only just over 100,000 in British Columbia. And there's more to do, for sure, Honourable Speaker. Many more families are knocking on the door of childcare resource and referral programmes saying, you know, we would like to find a space, we'd like to access childcare. We have more to do, Honourable Speaker, and we are working with partners in the community and we're working with school districts in order to increase access to childcare spaces. So we want to work with school districts. We want to create more childcare on school grounds because many families who want childcare have other children who are already in the education system. And so it makes sense for those families to drop off a child at school and a child at childcare as well for their early learning. And having run a childcare on school grounds, I know and have seen the benefits. And I know for the school community, for people working for the school district, that also can be a real benefit for them as well and alleviate that family stress. And as I say, it helps children with their transition into the classroom as well. So as we are investing also in building new schools and in improving schools with seismic upgrades, we will prioritise making sure that childcare spaces are included in those buildings as well. We're also working with local communities, with non-profits, with First Nations as well, so that we can build more affordable, quality, inclusive, accessible childcare, and working with local communities who know what the need is. They know where the best places are. They know where childcare would be most accessible and where it would make best sense for families to have childcare as well. We actually are already working with school districts and providing some on school grounds childcare, and so we're continuing to learn and we're continuing to evaluate how to best work with a range of different partners as well. And we also want to find, as I said earlier on, we want to find ways of increasing the number of childcare spaces. And so if there are community assets, community buildings that are already available that could be converted into childcare spaces, we want to work with partners in order to be able to do that. Of course, there's no point in building the spaces if we don't have the frontline professionals who are actually there to work with the children, to play with them, to provide that early learning. It's been such a pleasure, Honourable Speaker, to be visiting childcare spaces. The frontline workers, the professionals who are taking care of our precious little kids are just thriving in their work environments. They really enjoy every moment is a learning moment. They really enjoy spending time with the kids and being able to teach the kids new skills, help them navigate through their day and find opportunities of learning. It's such a joy to be in these spaces and be with these professionals as well. And I'm so thankful to all the incredible people who have chosen to make this work their profession as well. And, you know, their work makes a difference. It makes a difference now for those children, those families, and the quality of relationships, and it's going to make a difference as those kids transition into the education system and also for their future careers as well. And so we've been supporting early childhood educators through investing $27 million in bursaries, and that has supported nearly 7,500 ECE students. We've implemented a wage enhancement, which is now at $6 an hour increase, and that has now brought the median ECE wage up to $29 an hour. And so we have seen a stabilisation of recruitment and retention in the sector as well. We're providing better access to training and professional development, and we're prioritising internationally trained ECEs through the provincial nominee programme. We've increased the number of professionals in this field from 10,000 to 14,000, Honourable Speaker. So we know that in order to build capacity, that it's not just about the physical spaces, it's also about raising the capacity of the profession as well. And the more we reinforce the capacity of the profession, the less burnout we'll see. And I really see the profession thriving, as I say, going into childcare centres. It's such a joy to talk with the professionals who are working there. We're also offering students in grades 11 and 12 the opportunity to begin their ECE post-secondary training with college-level instruction while earning credits towards high school graduation. And we know that there's more to do, Honourable Speaker, and we have a range of interventions that are supporting the sector, and there is more to do, and we want to continue building capacity as well. And we are working on developing and testing a wage grid for early childhood educators, and we're doing that through some of the $10 a day sites, and we're evaluating an operating funding model as well. We're also making sure that providers have support that they need through the childcare operating funding and through this wage enhancement that I've talked about, and the Childcare BC Maintenance Fund as well. So we want to make sure that we're working with providers. We want to build a system that works for the providers, that works for the professionals, that works for families, and that puts children at the centre as well, Honourable Speaker. We want to support providers passing on those savings to families. And we also want to make sure that our childcare system is inclusive. I've heard from so many families who have kids with support needs who say that the way that childcare is structured doesn't meet the needs of their child. And I've heard too many stories from families who really need that childcare. They're caught in a poverty trap, and they really need childcare to support them and their family. And our priority is to make sure that all children have equitable access to licensed childcare spaces, and that all children are supported in their learning through play, along with all other children that might be in that programme. And I've visited some really, really delightful childcare facilities where they've been able to do that. It can work, Honourable Speaker. There are many ways of making sure that childcare is inclusive, and we can cross-pollinate that learning around the province as well. We want to make sure that all professionals working in this field are able to offer inclusive care and inclusive early learning as well. And with support from the federal government, we've increased our investment to over $100 million to make sure that the knowledge and the skills of childcare providers are able to provide that inclusive childcare service to children. And we want to make sure that all children in British Columbia are able to have the best start going forward and are able to fulfil their potential as well. And of course, Honourable Speaker, we are making sure, and we are committed to making sure that Indigenous children and families have full access to childcare across BC as well. I've visited, even on one given day, I visited an Indigenous and a non-Indigenous childcare facility, and there can be quite a difference, and we have a long way to go to make sure that all of our facilities that we support are inclusive and also reflect traditional knowledge and learning of the territory that they're based on as well. And we are investing in more options for Indigenous-led childcare. It's really important to support Indigenous-led childcare, the ways of learning, the ways of engaging elders, for example, the ways of structuring the day and the learning and the play need to be led by traditional cultural practices and informed by traditional culture as well. And so we're supporting that. We've funded more than 2,000 Indigenous-led childcare spaces, and we're committed to continuing to engage with Indigenous peoples as well. So we've made significant progress, Honourable Speaker. Childcare was ignored for far too long. It was treated as a luxury, and we can't go back to that, Honourable Speaker. We've heard from too many families that this is absolutely critical to families, to their quality of life, to their choices, to their opportunities for their future, for this generation and for future generations as well. So we are going to continue to lift families up through our childcare investments, and we're going to make sure that families can get ahead. I want to raise my hands to all of the staff in the ministry, all of the staff who support me in doing this work. It's absolutely vital and so critical to families across this province. And I really look forward to our next steps, and I thank everybody who's supporting our goals. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. Recognizing the member for Richmond North Centre.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Before I give my comments on this last budget before the October provincial election, I would like to spend some time talking about my beautiful riding of Richmond North Centre, which I'm so proud to represent. My riding continues to attract immigration from many other countries, with recent migration most notably from China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. Our cultural diversity has enriched our city and made Richmond an exciting place to live. Over 80% are visual minority, with over half of Chinese descent according to the 2021 census data. Therefore, Lunar New Year is, of course, one of the biggest occasions in Richmond, with colorful and vibrant celebrations starting from the Lunar New Year Eve on February the 9th until the end of next week, the whole month of the January according to the lunar calendar. I'm so proud and excited to join the biggest countdown celebration in the Lower Mainland, one that is again in my beautiful riding of Richmond North Centre. Aberdeen Centre will fill with thousands of community members to welcome the Year of the Dragon, the annual Lunar New Year countdown organized by Fairchild Television has been ongoing for more than 2 decades. Aberdeen Centre is the first shopping mall in Canada to break the Guinness World Records. The 380,000 square feet shopping space features more than 160 stores offering the latest fashion, furniture, and lifestyle products, Asian herbs, teas, fresh groceries, and culinary ingredients. Aberdeen Centre's unique fusion of East meets West shopping, dining, entertainment, and service amenities include 8 full-service restaurants, an 800-seat food court, exciting weekly arts and cultural performances, seasonal celebrations, themed exhibitions, as well as the only state-of-the-art musical fountain show in town. And I also found many Lunar New Year celebrations on the first day to welcome the Year of the Dragon. That included the Yauhan Centre, again in my beautiful riding of Richmond North Centre. Yauhan Centre is one of the earliest Asian malls developed in Richmond. It's not just a mall, but a place where you can have lots of fun with friends and family. I was also thrilled to join the Lunar New Year celebration at the Lansdowne Centre again in my riding and check out the one-of-a-kind Lego Dragon display. Met the Lego certified professional and celebrate the Lunar New Year with many of my constituents and residents of Richmond. And I was so blessed to join the Vancouver International Buddhist Progress Society Fo Guang Shan Temple of Vancouver in their celebration of the Year of the Dragon with their Buddhist followers in their temple, again in my riding. Their celebration included dragon dance, Lunar New Year fair booth showcasing festive treats, goods, wishing booth, peace bell ringing, light offering, ink rubbings, festive scrolls, paper cutting, and traditional children's game. I really want to take this opportunity to thank all the organizers and small businesses for hosting this colorful and cultural celebration in our community. Celebrating and amplifying the backgrounds, cultures, and tradition of those around us is an essential component of learning about the values that help make our province the unique, diverse, and inclusive place that it is. I also want to thank Richmond residents for taking time amid the busy Lunar New Year season to join the City of Richmond public hearings on the proposed supervised consumption site at the Richmond Hospital. Thousands joined the two-day public hearings and the Mineral Family Day rally to speak on their thoughts of the proposed consumption site or overdose prevention services motion supported by the Vancouver Coastal Health and this NDP government. I was there at the public hearings and the rally to listen to the feedback of Richmond residents, and I'm so proud of them for contributing their ideas, their opinions, and their knowledge. It is really valuable to our democracy. Again, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to my constituents and all the Richmond residents. And kudos to the media outlets in Richmond, such as Richmond News, Richmond Sentinel, Fairchild Television, Fairchild Radio, CHMB AM 1320, Singtao, Mingpao, Omni Television, and many more for working so hard to cover this issue. A few reporters even worked past midnight, and I was there witnessing that to provide the much needed information to the general public. Thank you so much for your efforts. Today, I stand before you not just as a representative of Richmond Law Centre, but as a voice for a community deeply affected by the decision made in this chamber. The budget 2024, presented by this NDP government, falls short of addressing our constituents' pressing needs and exacerbate the daily challenges they face. In fact, in my prepared speech, I haven't meant to talk about the childcare, but after having heard the previous speaker, the Minister of State for Childcare, that I think I have to put the record straight. It's important to lay the record and the facts before everybody in British Columbia so that they understand what's going on. Last week's provincial budget disclosed the funding gap between the federal government for the $10 daycare contributed by the federal government and supposed to be matched by the provincial government. It's important to remind the public that this NDP government, in their two elections, in 2017 and 2020, they promised the universal $10 a day daycare. I remember, I'm sure every one of us in this chamber remember that. That's how got this government, one of the major campaign promises that got this NDP government in power. But then, after they have been in power for 7 years, Madam Speaker, their promises fall short. Only 10% of the child care center are the $10 a day daycare spaces, which they claim that they will implement the universal. It's important to pay attention to the word universal. That means everybody who wants a childcare place can be entitled to a $10 a day plan. As I said, only 10% of the 146,000 licensed daycare centers, only 14,000 offer the $10 a day. So I guess they promised 10-year plan, and there's only 3 years left. How are they going to meet the other 90%? I think all young families should bear that in mind. They voted this government because of their pledge to provide you a $10 a day childcare space. And there's only 10% after 7 years. What a broken promise. As I said, this year's provincial budget exposed the funding gap. Let me tell you more about this funding gap. It showed that NDP government only provided 15% of the new funding for childcare at a time when the province is lagging well behind the targets in the NDP government 10-year plan for providing a $10 a day care. Overall, there was $252 million in new funding for childcare spaces in BC for the financial year starting April the 1st. The federal government provided most of us $214 million with just, can you imagine how much? $38 million from this NDP government. This is all laid out in the budget. Figures cannot lie. Facts cannot lie. That's why I have to talk about this childcare issue, even though I have not prepared to talk about it. And even worse, the order in council signed by the cabinet order show that this government won't be able to spend a further 40% of federal funding next year and 10% the year beyond that. So according to this order in council, I quote, British Columbia anticipates difficulty expanding its fiscal year 2023 to 2024 and 2024 to 2025 allocations due to diverse implementation challenges. So this, I quote, they call it diverse implementation challenges, have left the BC NDP unable to take advantage of as much as $639 million in easy federal cash. And the NDP government just sitting there begging to be spent at a time when 9 out of 10 BC parents don't have access to $10 a day spaces. What a shame. Well, the province insists it will eventually, at some point, spend that money. So at some point, I wonder what years will that be? The NDP government blamed rising construction costs, inflation, a worker shortage, and other issues for the delays. In their status update to Ottawa 4 months ago, as Rob Shaw, our political journalist, said, it's a lack of political will among the provincial New Democrats. That's what Rob Shaw said, I'm quoting him. The party hasn't come close to honoring its funding commitment for the $10 a day program since the 2020 election, not to talk about the 2017 election. Instead, luring the facts to the table and then slashing provincial increases to leave Ottawa doing the heavy lifting. Well, Honourable Speaker, looking at the time, I'm getting too frustrated. I reserve my right to continue my speech on the childcare when the House adjourns. And looking at the time, I ask for adjournment. Oh, adjournment of the debate. Thank you. Thank you, House Leader.
Member, the question was to adjourn the debate. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Government House Leader.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I move we'll see everybody shortly. I move that the House do now adjourn.
You heard the question to adjourn the House. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. This House stands adjourned until 1 p.m. this afternoon.